But first football, and they may be struggling for results in the league, but tonight Swindon will hope to ruffle a few feathers in the Cup. They're at home to Championship side Southampton in the second round of the Carling Cup.
Alistair Durden is at the county ground to see if they can cause another upset. What do you think, Ali?
Oh, it's so hard to say with Swindon Town at the moment, to be honest. Just when you think they've cracked it, they go and slip up in the next game. They've actually lost their last 4 in the league, but within that time, they beat Bristol City from the Championship in this competition. That was last week, and that was a terrific performance from Paolo di Canio's side down in Ashton Gate last Wednesday. The manager afterwards was very enthusiastic about the performance and the way his team had played. But then, of course, they went out at the weekend, played Shrewsbury in the league and lost, and he said his players had lacked desire in that one. So really, to be honest, it's very hard to say if I can sit on the fence anymore as far as this game is concerned. Let's have a chat with the chairman, Jeremy Ray, who's very pleased to see his side involved in a cup run, because that always helps the club. But Jeremy, what about the league? Are you a little bit concerned?
I mean, we knew it wasn't going to be easy in League Two. I mean, we were under no illusions about that. It's a different style of football, and we have to adapt to it. And clearly, we haven't adapted as quickly as may have been hoped. But yeah, the cup's a nice diversion, because as we saw against Bristol City, when we're allowed to play football and get the ball down, we do that. And Paolo plays very attractive football, and hopefully we'll see it again tonight.
So you're prepared to be patient with the league, are you? For how long?
I think he's got a very clear way of how he wants to play football, and it's the type of football that we want to see. And I think it's wrong when people assume that there's only one way to get out of League Two. I think you can get down and pass it. We've got to adapt in certain ways, but we're all learning, and I'm very confident we'll get there.
So you beat Bristol City, now another Championship club, Southampton, tonight in the Cup. But the way they've started, is this another step up, do you think?
I mean, I think that's definitely right. I mean, they've got a flying start. They've got a very good side there, and of course now they're going to have one eye being right at the top of that league. They're going to be one eye. Maybe they've got to focus on the Premiership, so maybe it's our chance to catch them off guard.
And the winner gets a home tie against a League One club. So is there the chance to go really deep into the draw?
Well, I mean that's right. With any cup competition, you look at it, and if you're not going to get Man United or Arsenal away from, if I put my revenue hat on just briefly, then yes, you want a game that hopefully you've got a chance of winning. So yeah, it's maybe the advantage of being around behind all the time in this is that we can see who we get next, and that's what drives people on. Yeah.
Good stuff. Thanks for joining us. Best of
Cheers.
luck tonight. There are a couple of other matches to tell you about, and also in the Carling Cup, Bristol Rovers away to Leyton Orient. Now the winners of that one will be away to Premier League Blackburn in the third round, so a big prize there. And also the first round of the Johnston's Paint Trophy tonight. Cheltenham have got a home tie against Torquay United. We'll have both those results and the action from this game here at the County Ground in our bulletin at 10:25.
Back to tonight, lots of football to keep you updated on. 3 matches in the Carling Cup, and we've got goals in a couple of them. Let's start with the game at Swindon. League 2, Swindon taking on Southampton of the Championship. We've got an opening goal, but which way has it gone? Fraser Robertson.
Yeah, Swindon 0, Southampton 1. The goal after 16 minutes, scored by Gulli de Prado. A great header on the box from a fine cross from Lee Holmes. And Southampton threatened about 3 or 4 minutes before that as well. A lovely shot from Lallana, just going inches past the far post. So Swindon have started OK, but Southampton in command, 1-0.
OK, let's get back to the Carling Cup second round. 3 ties this evening. Championship Southampton led at Swindon by 1-0. Second goal in the game. Which way has this one gone? Fraser Robertson.
It's now Swindon 0, Southampton 2, and the goal scorer was Jonathan Forte. He's playing tonight instead of Ricky Lambert, who'd started at Leicester on Saturday. It was a lovely through ball by the scorer of the first goal, de Prado, and Forte hit it fairly close to the goalkeeper, but the goalkeeper, Phil Smith, let it slide under his body and into the net. So it's Swindon 0, Southampton 2.
Get back to the Carling Cup ties now. 3 of them this evening, rather, in the second round. What's happening between Swindon and Southampton? Southampton were 2-0 up last time with Fraser Robertson. Fraser?
Yes, it still remains 2-0 to Southampton. They're very much on top now, the Championship team. The first goal after 16 minutes from de Prado, and then he turned provider after 29 minutes, setting up the goal for 40. His shot squimming under the Swindon keeper, Phil Smith. But it's interesting to see how Southampton are playing so well, given that they dropped 5 of the players from their league game at Leicester on Saturday. The main men, Kevin Davis, the goalkeeper, Jose Fonte, Ricky Lambert and Dean Hammond.
Right, let's bring you straight back to the Carling Cup, a second round, and it's half a time with Swindon taking on Southampton. Fraser Robertson has the very latest at the half-time mark. Fraser.
Yes, half-time, Southampton very much in control. Swindon 0, Southampton 2. The goals coming from De Prado after 16 minutes. And then 29 minutes, he turned provider to set up Jonathan Forte. Lala on the left of midfield has been playing very well for Southampton, as has Lee Holmes on the right of Southampton's midfield. Swindon 0, Southampton 2.
It's not been the best run of form for Paolo di Canio's Swindon. They've lost their last 4 league games in a row. And are they heading out of the Carling Cup this evening? Fraser Robertson.
At the moment they are. It's still Swindon 0, Southampton 2. The first half goals from De Prado and Fort. But Swindon really have dominated this second half, and they came close a couple of minutes into the second period. It was a header from Leon Clarke, which just flashed wide of the far post. Still 2-0 Southampton.
Let's get back to the Carling Cup. 3 ties taking place this evening in the second round. What a start to the season it's been for Southampton since their promotion for the Championship. And maybe they're going to mount a bit of a cup run as well. Fraser Robertson.
It looks like Southampton progressing at the moment. They still lead 2-0 here at Swindon's. The goals from De Prado and Forte in the first half. Swindon started the second half fairly positively and were on top, but in the last 10 or 15 minutes Southampton have regained control of that midfield and really look as if they're playing out the tie now. Swindon 0, Southampton 2.
What's happening in the Carling Cup tie between Swindon and Southampton? Have we got late drama in this one as well? Fraser Robertson.
Yeah, we're into the final 5 minutes of the regulation 90, and Swindon 1, Southampton 2. As I speak, Southampton on the attack. A great final 5 minutes here, and the Swindon goal, an absolute perler. A curling free kick from the substitute, Mehdi Carucci. Curling from the right-hand side of the box, as you can see there. A beauty right into the top corner. And Swindon really have their tails up here. Southampton on the attack though as I speak, so could Southampton hold on here? Could we be heading for extra time as Swindon score?
Now there's been another goal in the third of those matches in the Carling Cup second round. Swindon taking on Southampton, and Fraser Robertson has that goal for us. Fraser.
I can tell you the full-time whistle has just sounded, and it's Swindon 1, Southampton 3. Just as Swindon at 2-1 down looked as if they were going to equalise and force extra time, they missed a great chance. Leon Clarke at the front post just stabbed inches wide. That signalled a substitution by Nigel Atkins, the Southampton manager. He put on Southampton's talisman, Ricky Lambert, and within a few minutes of coming on, Lambert busts through in the centre of the pitch, through the defence, and what a cool head he showed to round the goalkeeper Phil Smith and roll it into the net. That sealed the Southampton's victory. It finished Swindon 1, Southampton 3.
Meanwhile, extraordinary scenes at the county ground. Paolo di Canio clashed with one of his own players after their 3-1 defeat to Southampton. The Championship side took the lead after 16 minutes with this header by Gulli Do Prado. Jonathan Forte made it 2 for the Saints after half an hour when he struck from just inside the penalty area. Swindon got a goal back through substitute Mehdi Carucci's free kick. Nicely done. But Richard Lambert made it 3-1 to Southampton, and that came in stoppage time and put their place in the next round. Easy done there. But the action didn't end there. This is unbelievable. After the match, Swindon manager Paolo di Canio and striker Leon Clarke exchanged angry words after the final whistle. Well, the confrontation continued down the tunnel And in the end, as you can see, the pair had to be separated by club officials.
Well, staying with the Carling Cup and all...
Comment more on those extraordinary scenes that we saw a little bit earlier at the county ground when Swindon got knocked out of the second round of the Carling Cup to Southampton. Fraser Robertson was there for us. What exactly happened?
Absolutely extraordinary. We are waiting now for official comment from Swindon, and we understand the manager, Paolo di Canio, will not be making any comment to the media following the pictures we brought you there at the final whistle after his altercation with his own striker, Leon Clarke. Now, I can tell you, after the pictures that we see here, with Clarke being grabbed by Di Canio and being pulled down the tunnel, and Clarke seemingly unwilling to follow his manager down the tunnel, and then the incident continuing in the tunnel when there was an altercation, and doesn't look as if there were any punches thrown, but certainly hands were grabbing collars. And I can tell you, after that incident, Clarke immediately left the tunnel and did not go into the dressing room. He headed out onto the pitch, not just creeping onto the pitch, he walked beyond the centre circle and crouched down and put his hand to his head and stayed there for at least 15-20 minutes, seemingly distraught. And the chairman of Swindon, Jeremy Ray, then came over to talk to him on the pitch, and were then told Clarke came nowhere near the tunnel and disappeared into the far side of the ground and has not been seen since. Now, we are told by Swindon that the chairman, Jeremy Ray, will be appearing to make some official comment in the next 5 or 10 minutes.
Thanks very much, Fraser. We'll be very interested to see the further comments with that then. Very interesting stuff. Thanks, Fraser.
Just 6 months ago, these two sides were playing each other in the league, but differing fortunes since mean they're now 2 divisions apart. And in the first half it showed. Southampton's Gulli de Prado left unmarked to head in the first goal. And the Championship side were 2 up by the break. Gulli's pass, Jonathan Fort's shot and Phil Smith's blunder. Paolo di Canio said his side lacked desire at the weekend. After a gentle half-time reminder, they produced a response, Leon Clarke heading wide. Finally, with 6 minutes left, Mehdi Karouche caressed this free kick. The South Coast side were finally under pressure. Swindon threw the ball into the box in search of an equaliser. Instead, Ricky Lambert finished things off, shrugging off Aidan Flint before rounding Smith. 3-1 and Southampton through to the next round. Alistair Durden, BBC Points West.
Swindon Town say they'll hold an investigation into last night's confrontation between manager Paolo di Canio and one of his players, Leon Clarke. The angry exchange happened as the players left the field after the club's 3-1 defeat to Southampton in the Carling Cup. Alistair Durden reports.
Telling me I'm going to run again tomorrow.
Leon Clarke was upset after being told by the club's fitness coach he'd have to do extra training today. Paolo di Canio tried to calm his player down, but in front of supporters still inside the ground, the two began to argue. The heated exchange continued in the tunnel, with Clarke refusing to go in the dressing room. He left the ground still wearing his kit, while Di Canio went home without talking to the media, leaving the chairman to explain what had happened.
These things are better sorted out behind closed doors when everyone has an opportunity to say their bit, and everyone calms down. That unfortunately is not what did happen, but as I say, till we get all the facts tomorrow and find out on both sides, it would be unfair to apportion blame.
The scuffle overshadowed the match, which saw Southampton move into the third round. Mehdi Karouche provided some late hope for Swindon, but the Saints wrapped up the win with a goal from Ricky Lambert.
Now, there were extraordinary scenes last night during Swindon's football match with Southampton. The team's controversial manager, Paolo di Canio, had a pitch-side bust-up with one of his players, which continued into the tunnel and then seemed to explode into a scuffle.
The side were beaten 3-1, but it was the action off the pitch that grabbed all the headlines. Chris Spittles reports.
Paolo di Canio is known for his fiery temper, but last night's incident started after striker Leon Clarke had a disagreement with the club's fitness coach. Unfortunately, Di Canio's attempts to defuse the situation merely made things worse, and his row with Clarke continued as they headed down the tunnel. As the pair scuffled, the club's security staff had to intervene, as their very public row was captured by television cameras. The club are now investigating what happened. There was no resolution by the end of the evening. Clarke refused to go back into the dressing room and after returning to the pitch, eventually left the ground still wearing his playing kit. Chris Spittles for the West Country Tonight. Swindon Town's Carling Cup exit at the hands of Championship side Southampton was comprehensive. The Saints quickly took a 2-0 lead and Mehdi Carucci's free kick was mere consolation.
Paolo di Canio was hoping his Swindon team would create a Carling Cup shock against Southampton, but by the end he was making headlines himself for all the wrong reasons. Championship side Southampton made all the early running. Here Adam Lallana almost scored his fourth of the campaign. Nigel Ankins' team, who made a highly promising return to the second tier this season, went ahead in the 17th minute. Brazilian Julio do Prado, wearing the number 10 shirt in a strip resembling that of his national side, headed in his second goal in 3 games. On the half hour, it was 2-0. Jonathan Fort broke the offside trap and beat Swindon keeper Phil Smith to score on his first start this season. 1969 League Cup winners. Swindon almost got a lifeline in this game, but no one could connect with Matt Ritchie's dangerous cross. Into the second half, and Di Canio's men went close again, but this time Leon Clarke couldn't direct his header on target. They finally found a way back into the game though, when Algerian Mehdi Carouche scored his first goal for the club, this from a fine free kick. And indeed the Robins then should have made it 2-2, but Clarke wasted the chance. And the home side were left to rue their missed opportunities when Ricky Lambert secured the Saints win in stoppage time. But at the end, Di Canio was involved in an unsavoury scuffle with one of his own players. And the altercation with Leon Clarke continued into the tunnel. Southampton will now face either Charlton or Preston at home in round 3.
Lee Holmes sent in the cross, allowing Julio do Prado to head past the helpless Phil Smith. 1-0 to the visitors. Callum Kennedy then had a chance to equalise for the home side. Good work from the lively Matt Ritchie eventually saw the ball rebound back to Kennedy, only for his drive to fly just wide of the upright. It didn't take long for the visitors to double their lead, with do Prado again involved. Jonathan Forte got on the end of the through ball before squeezing a shot under the unfortunate Smith. 2-0 and the Saints were cruising. The Robins were again unlucky in the 37th minute. Matt Ritchie's cross fizzed across the Southampton goal but couldn't be turned into the gaping net. Paolo di Canio's men started the second half just as they finished the first. Again, the Reds were unlucky not to score when Leon Clarke headed wide from 6 yards. He knew he should have done better. Swindon finally pulled a goal back in the 84th minute. Mehdi Caroucci won the initial foul on the edge of the Southampton area. The Algerian then smashed the resulting free kick into the top corner, leaving Bartosz Białkowski with no chance. 2-1 and the Robins were back in the game. Leon Clarke then had a glorious chance to draw the sides level, but he pulled his shot wide from only 4 yards. And as the Robins continued to search for the equaliser, substitute Ricky Lambert found himself through on goal, only to round Smith and score the easiest of finishes. So a 3-1 win on the night then for the Championship side. They can look forward to a home tie against either Charlton or Preston in the 3rd round. Swindon boss Paolo di Canio was involved in a heated confrontation with striker Leon Clarke at the end of the match. Di Canio appeared to manhandle Clarke towards the tunnel, and the pair seemed to be pushing and shoving before being separated.
Now to some football news, and the future of Swindon striker Leon Clarke is in doubt after a public bust-up with manager Paolo di Canio. The incident happened as the players were coming off the field following their Carling Cup defeat to Southampton. Clarke, who only signed for Swindon less than a fortnight ago, didn't train with the squad today. Alistair Durden reports.
Leon Clarke was the last player to leave the field. He was clearly upset after an argument with the club's fitness coach about extra training.
You're telling me I'm going to run again tomorrow?
Paolo di Canio tried to usher Clarke down the tunnel, but in front of supporters still inside the ground, the two began to argue. The heated exchange continued in the tunnel. Later, Clarke left the ground still wearing his kit, while Di Canio went home without talking to the media, leaving his chairman to explain what had happened.
These things are better sorted out behind closed doors when everyone has an opportunity to say their bit, and everyone calms down. That unfortunately is not what did happen. Leon was felt that he was being manhandled, and he was being manhandled and trying to be moved down the tunnel. I mean, I think the key thing was, quite rightly, that the manager didn't want this to play out in public in the way that it did.
The scuffle overshadowed the match, which saw Southampton move into the third round. Mehdi Karouche provided some late hope for Swindon, but the Saints wrapped up the win with a goal from Ricky Lambert.
Well, now in football, Swindon Town chairman Jeremy Ray has confirmed that striker Leon Clarke will leave the club on loan following a clash with manager Paolo di Canio. The 26-year-old only joined Swindon 12 days ago from QPR. He argued with Di Canio after Tuesday's Carling Cup defeat about extra fitness training. Today, Di Canio said, "We work hard. He didn't want to work. He is absolutely a lazy person. Even if he's under contract, he's not going to play in my team." Now, Swindon, I mean, Paolo Di Canio is a complete season in itself, isn't it, really? Antics all over the place. What did you make of the bust-up on Wednesday night?
It happens in football, it happens in sport where people are passionate. It shows they care about it, but, you know, it's not great for morale. If the team are buzzing and they're winning 5 out of 5, it's OK. But at the moment, I just think things are on a bit of a kind of knife edge with Paolo. You know, he's a great character, a great player, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a great manager. But he's got to show who's in charge, and I think over this incident, it's certainly the manager who's come out on top.
Now, obviously, a breakdown in communication there. Do you worry, though, that it might be more players who aren't happy with his style?
That's possible, but I don't know sat here. But the thing is about results. I mean, I remember Martin Dobson, a Rovers manager in my time. We had a horrendous time, and his methods were strange in the extreme. And if we'd been winning matches, I think as a player you accept that. But when things aren't going well results-wise, all of a sudden the players can get restless. So they need to win a match or 3 pretty quickly.
Have they got the squad to win those matches?
Yeah, they have. I mean, we've seen that already. I mean, defensively, they're vulnerable. They concede too many goals from set plays. That's something Di Canio, who's a flair player, probably needs to get a bit of guidance and work on. But yeah, they can.
Southampton's impressive start to the season continued as they strolled to victory against Swindon. On what proved to be an eventful night for Paolo Di Canio, his side did get one back, but Ricky Lambert wrapped it up for the Saints.
Well, we've all been talking about what happened after the match. The spat between the Swindon manager Paolo Di Canio and striker Leon Clarke. It started out on the pitch, and then a bit of tugging and pulling, and it continued down the tunnel as well. But as Paul Alcock will tell you, you'd never get the better of a little tussle with Di Canio, and Leon Clarke has been put out on loan, and Di Canio says he will not play for the club again.